Thank you so much for that generous introduction, Nilakshi. I know it's getting late and I'll try to wrap up as soon as possible with giving you valuable inputs on how we've been driving sales at the store level. So to give you guys a brief, my name is Vishesh and I've been the director at Fynd from past few years now. I also look after the store tech solutions within the organization in India. So we have a team of around 50 people looking after store tech solutions, which we have deployed in close to 5,500 stores. So we started off this journey somewhere around 2018, and a lot of changes in the product, a lot of tech implementations, and the kind of experience which we have gained is something which I want to try and empower the audience right here. So I would be very happy and generous to say that the kind of implementation which we have done has been really good. That's the kind of impact which we've created when it comes to the sales we've garnered. But a lot of people here would have burned their fingers in deploying store tech solutions at the store, right? Do we have people from retail stores here? Retail stores here? Sir, of course. Right, so a few of them, right? Salespeople, smart SaaS platform just like us would have walked into your organization, right? Sold you tech products, giving you a graph of how it's going to skyrocket your sales, and a few months later, that must have come, right? Yeah, so I'm here to give you fair practices on how we can overcome that. Before we do that, I have a slide. So this number is one of the biggest footwear brands which we have in our portfolio, and we onboarded this brand 1.5 years back, and we've grown from almost 10 stores is what we piloted with to 400 within 1.5 years, right? So that's the kind of adoption which we have driven for them. I can't show you numbers, but the kind of business which we have done with them is as good as opening 7 stores in thin air, right? So I'll explain you how that happens. The amount of business an average footwear brand store does, right? You multiply it by 7, and that's the kind of business which we have been able to garner with that store tech product which we have deployed. And just to reiterate, the solution which we have given is just to plug in the loss of inventory, right? So the customer walks into the store and he's not able to get a size, he's not able to buy the kind of inventory which is available in the store, and you're not able to expose the other store's inventory. That fragmented part, that was the only thing we plugged in, and we were able to do that amount of business. Before we try and understand that what were the problems which we were trying to overcome here. So if you look at this, I think standard issues, everyone is well versed about that. Fragmented inventory, PICA, long checkouts, loss of sale opportunities, inconsistent customer experiences. But there is one very big problem here which has not been highlighted, right? Is anyone want to take a guess? Store tech implementation, most of the problems are here. There is something which is completely missing.
Training.
Close.
Inventory.
Inventory is right here.
Adoption.
Correct. Did you read my notes? So what is the biggest challenge, right? Store tech deployment. The biggest challenge here is the adoption. I mean, a SaaS platform, a CEO, the general manager will talk about how implementation of this product is going to give you a lot of sale, but nobody is actually implementing that at the store, right? The people who are taking the decision of implementation and the people who are actually putting it on the track are extremely different, right? And that's the biggest problem which we are trying to solve here. So I don't know how many of you know about Phygital. It's one of the biggest retail data analytics company in the country who gives you research analysis. So there was a very interesting question which were asked by them to the store staff and the CXO level people of the same organization of how do they feel about store tech implementation, right? So these are people of the same organization, and the kind of answer which you see right now is extremely disruptive. So 18% of the store staff said that they are happy with the kind of implementation which they have had at the stores, right? And on the contrary, 41% of CXOs said that they are happy with the kind of implementation they have done, right? So we see a huge difference with the same brand, with the same product within 2 different types of people. Why do you think that happens?
The incentives are different.
Sorry?
The incentives are different for the 2 set of people.
Right. But there's another closer part to this.
Sorry, is this data for Middle East or is this
Sorry?
Is this data for the Middle East or is this for India?
It's for India.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an
Ease of adoption.
Yeah.
Ease of adoption.
Right. So we fail to completely understand the different user personalities who's going to use that particular product. As I said, the person who's making the decision and the person who's actually using the product are fairly different when it comes to personality, right? So we did a research of more than 1,000 store CXOs, CSOs, regional managers and brand manager before we actually came and arrived to this user personality chart. So I'm not going to dig deep into this because you guys can fairly understand the difference between traits and personalities within them. But the bigger part is again, the guy dealing with this and the guy implementing and the differences between the personality. So which gets me to the right thing, are you asking the right questions, right? So these are the questions which we feel should be asked for the store staff, for the user who's actually using the products. But do we get these questions while we are implementing the product? Do we feel that these are the right questions which needs to be asked? How many of us feel that way? Just one right up. All right, let's address those questions one by one, right? Very simple thing, rewards and recognition, right? How many of you guys have an understanding of how a sales allocation or sale attribution for any tech product happens within a store, right? I mean, that's just a question which most of you would be able to provide a solid answer to. But over the experience of so many years and working with so many stores, there are stark differences in the way brand would deploy these incentives. So the biggest downward for a lot of brands have been that they've decided that they'll do a pilot, right? The CXOs decided that they'll do a pilot, and I don't know how many of them were actually informed at the store until and unless the training was happened, right? Probably they'll give them a few understanding of this is going to plug your inventory. You can ensure that the customer who's walking into the store is not going empty-handed. But who's going to get the sales out of this, right? There's an ordering store, there is a fulfillment store. Who's going to get that sales? There's a fulfillment store who will receive an order out of thin air for which he has not done any hard work. Is he going to get that allocation? Is he going to get that incentives? So we tried to solve that. The one which you see highlighted at the bottom is something which we said is going to work most of the cases, right? So you add the target to the store who's convincing the customer to buy those products. You add it to his sales target, and you give the allocation to the fulfillment store. All right. Now we all know the most basic thing, reward कर दो, ठीक है, incentives दे देते हैं, store staff को काम बन जाएगा, right? But is there a other way to understand how incentives can work better? So just to reiterate, intrinsic and extrinsic behavior are two ways on how monetary incentives are distributed, right? Giving money, giving incentives, vouchers, Amazon, Noon, I mean whatever marketplace is, it's going to make these store manager, these store staff happy. But are they going to remember that for a long time? I don't think so. So what we did is that we had a WhatsApp group, we had a lot of chatbots wherein we started pushing incentives in the form of social, then only the money one, right? So we gamified the entire process where they felt competitive. We posted things on LinkedIn. We gave them a social platform wherein they can flaunt the kind of wins they have done. Now nobody is doing that for store level. Nobody is doing that for store staff. So that was extremely welcoming and very well taken by these people. Now you would see a very interesting thing here, right? Most of the board meetings which we have when we discuss the adoption only happens at the CSO level. So I was working with Aditya Birla for a very long time, and I was implementing a lot of projects within the store. But except me, a lot of people from the head office would have that discussion on how these things are happening in the store, right? But the right person who's actually implementing and the user of those products, our store staff, our store manager, were never in the picture, right? So we did some research and it came out, the blocks which you see on the right hand side is something which is part of our tech product right now, which we call the tracking of user behavior, right? So how many times is he launching the application? Basically all the call to action buttons within an application is something we build a dashboard for, right? So that you can go back to that person and try and understand that is he taking a lot of time to search for a product? Is there a training which we can provide him? regarding the analytics view or regarding the way he's been placing orders and things like that. Again, small, simple things, but really work. I am not really sure about the percentage of attrition at front end here in UAE. I tried to search that, but I did not get a good number. But back in India, it's around 30 to 35%, right? So 35% of the front end retail people are leaving their jobs and joining a new organization within the same retail field, right? Now, every time we would go and run a store, I don't know how much do you know about this, but it takes at least 4 to 5 months or probably 2 quarters to train a store manager, to train a store staff to reach that optimum level of performance when it comes to store technology, right? Now, within that time period, half of the people have left, or probably 30-35% of the people have left. What do we do about this? So we started interacting with the store managers. We started letting them understand how building their career graph with omnichannel is extremely important, right? We taught them that even if you leave this organization and even if you join any other organization, we had a whole bunch of people, 5,500 stores, 5 people in every store. They were like 25-30,000 people which we trained. And we actually gave them a complete understanding of their career rather than the product, to make them understand you leave your job, you find another job. It's only easy if you have omnichannel in your resume, right? Small pause on a bigger picture, but what it really helped was that they started taking this as a career advancement, and not only for that particular brand or not only for that particular store. Again, one strategy which really worked for us. This, I think this is one thing which gets repeated everywhere. Everyone is providing training. Everyone is, talking about how training, retraining is going to work for the store managers. But what we fail here is to do a periodic assessment. You know how HR will pull you to do some random training within the organization. You have no idea how it's going to help us, right? I don't think anyone ever does that for store staff. I don't think anyone ever does that for store people. So we did that. We put in some app tutorials which had small games within it. So every time you answer a few questions, you'll be able to win some, eccentric award which had no sense, just like playing a Subway Surfer and winning points and things like that. Again, work for us. And that gets me to the last part to it. Sorry? Alright. So another very important thing which we built was we tried to do a community service for the people who are working within the sphere, right? So we had WhatsApp groups. Rather than escalating issues, we started celebrating very small things in regards to the kind of community which we built, with people celebrating birthdays, posting who's been the highest leader, random product updates which does not make any sense, probably one SKU selling the most, right? Within a particular region, what was the highest sale for that particular day. The store shut at 10 p.m., but there are still staff who have a habit of doing personalized selling. So even after 12 p.m., I would see some sales upticking in the dashboard. So those kind of community service, those kind of competitiveness between the store staff, between the store manager is something which we built, right? And it really worked. So all of this is something which we went through in order to get the sales which I saw you at the starting of the slide, right? So that gets me to the end of this, and I have a few questions for you guys to take back home, if you guys are doing all of this or not. All right? Thank you. Any questions? Tired audience?
Ma'am? I don't have a question, but I have an observation.
Okay.
Is that allowed?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's great, okay? And at VTech in Egypt, there were about 180 stores. And we wanted to build all this technology in. But I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to this adoption thing. My observation is that when you talk to people, everybody wants to know what's in it for me.
Correct.
Okay? And the whole thing has to be positioned as, we're going to grow you as a person and your skill sets. So they are equipped for the changing future. And everybody can see that. And when they pick that, then they start wanting to bring these skill sets on board. And they want to record these skill sets. That I grew from this level to this level to this level. So if you adopted, or if you changed something in your program for making it a little casual, to a little more structured, by saying that you attain this level, this level, this level, and you can do it on the app. Okay, through your knowledge, through your sales level, through your NPS score, or whatever it is, you can start showing that the person actually grew and went up the ladder and added to himself or herself. I think you have very good chances of super adoption of this app. And this is something that's really good.
Thank you. I missed on that. I'll give you an example of a brand called Steve Madden. We've been working with that brand for almost 7-8 years now. And one of the store staff who was from the Kurla store in Bombay, that guy was the one who used to do maximum sales when we started deploying the application. I can't say where is he right now, but he left the organization while he was leading this after 7 years. So that's the kind of journey he built for himself. Every time we would the individuality in which he was growing. So you've done that. We've written a few blogs also. I would love to share with the audience, sir. Thank you.